you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First off, it's free. There are certain tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so you can put it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. You can make money from your podcast also with no minimum listenership. Lastly, it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome, listeners, and thank you for tuning into Real Free Flowing Words, a podcast about everyday topics and everything in between. I'm the Rhyme Ruler, and in this episode, I talk about freedom and whether money can truly bring freedom. So, stay tuned for my perspective. But first, the poem for today's episode is titled Freedom Flight. Captive and lost in time, a prey to a chain-linked oppression. Freedom to reach everywhere and at any time was once a formality. Pain and courage silenced by cold steel. Blessings of a spring gust brought momentum to push forth from the adversity. Now this flightless bird has awoken now to begin once again freely soaring and restoring balance in what is, not what once was, a freedom flight that can't be grounded. You've all heard the saying, money can buy happiness, which is debatable. But one saying I've been contemplating over is, can money bring you freedom? I believe there is truth to this. However, in this episode, I'll perceive this saying from a different angle, and I want to fixate over the word freedom. Freedom by definition is a power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. The broke person who has his physical freedom, not being incarcerated, that is, has the freedom to improve his or her self and become the best version of themselves. Having money will give him or her the opportunity to experience things that he or she wouldn't have had the luxury to do in the beginning. However, if this person loses their physical freedom, all that they worked for will not only be relinquished, but their freedom of mind to progress will be halted. Freedom of body and mind is what I'm getting at here. This also applies to an affluent person who has their physical freedom and has way more opportunities and options to obtain and experience things compared to a broke person. That being said, that person can be in a predicament where, let's use an example like he or she was embezzling money and now has to do time. That physical freedom in the free world is removed, and his or her free mindset to accomplish whatever they want is halted, and they'll have to start from the beginning and work their way back. In this example, the affluent person gets their time back, which is something that can never be returned. So with their newfound physical freedom and by being scrupulous and motivated, they can once again live comfortably. On the other hand, a poor person has an uphill battle, but with motivation, time management, and a supportive group of people around them, they can improve to where they envision themselves to be and also live comfortably. For example, in the film The Pursuit of Happiness, which stars Will Smith as Chris Gardner, who is a real-life person who he betrayed, Gardner was broke and became homeless in the middle of the film, but he never lost the motivation to sell his bone density machines and work in corporate America when the odds were stacked against him. He had his son, which is love and belonging. If you look at the Maslow hierarchy of needs, that's a love and belonging right there. By his side at all times, experiencing the struggles. He lost almost all physiological needs, and his safety needs were in jeopardy on multiple occasions, which diminished his esteem at times. However, one thing that was consistent throughout the film was his self-actualization. He knew his strengths and weaknesses and capitalized on the opportunity that would bring solace to him and his son's life. The happiness came from the struggle to finally obtain what he wanted to accomplish. And that could not have been done without freedom of mind and body. What good is money going to provide if you cannot have the physical freedom to enjoy it? All these individuals I've mentioned have the freedom to navigate throughout life on their own accord and are responsible for their outcomes. In summary, everything I said thus far can be exhibited using Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So can money bring you freedom? In my opinion, yes and no. As long as you have freedom of body and mind, The money will come your way as long as you put the work in. Opportunities will be worthwhile because you can feel the freedom to experience it. Use your money as you wish, and that is true freedom, not being restrained to accomplish what you want. To recap this episode, without freedom of body and mind, money won't be a substitute to completely alleviate your problems. At first, it can bring you satisfaction, but it can be all taken away from you at any moment. But one thing you have power to control is your freedom. And another thing I brought up was Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I used to illustrate how freedom cannot exist without individuals not being able to experience pleasures and pain that affect their body and mind. I brought up the example. I used a real life example in terms of Chris Gardner, the person Will Smith portrayed in The Pursuit of Happiness. Gardner had all his freedom, his physical freedom, but he had the power to motivate himself to strive to get money that would fulfill his lack of resources and overcome. For more information on this podcast, you can go on realfreeflowingwords.blog. And if you enjoyed listening to this episode's topic and would like to listen to more, subscribe on Spotify or whichever platforms you get your podcasts on. After subscribing, give the podcast a rating and review. The show has been made possible by Anchor, which is providing a great and easy-to-use service for new and seasoned podcasters. Lastly, thank you for listening to Real Free-Flowing Words with the Rhyme Ruler. And it's been real.
That was legitness.